Well, good morning, everyone. Can I say something, first of all, about masks? The protocol, as you know, in and out of this building still is that there should be masks to be worn by all of those who come and leave. In this room, I shall not wear a mask, and I do not require anyone to wear a mask. Of course, it is a matter entirely for anyone to wear it if they choose. If you feel more comfortable, then you should. But if you wish to take it off, please feel free to do so. Anybody who has a difficulty with that, it's probably now is a good time to leave. Otherwise, as I say, that is going to be the protocol that we will adopt for now. Please turn off your telephones. I've left mine in my chambers, so I would ask you all to at least put it on silent. I wonder if, Mr. Maharaj, you'd be kind enough to make some introductions of those that are sitting in the council's rows, so that I might know who everyone is.
Much alike. Chairman, Mr. General, Council, Commissioner.
You need to put a microphone on, I think, Mr. Maharaj.
Sorry. The attorneys at law who are present and the parties they represent, I would kindly ask the attorneys at law to stand when their names are called. PARIA Fuel Trading Company Limited and Heritage Petroleum Company Limited, represented by Mr. Gilbert Peterson, Senior Counsel, leading Mr. Jason Mutu, instructed by Gretel Bear.
Good morning.
Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, represented by Mr. Colin Kangaloo as counsel, instructed by Ms. Daniel Inglefield.
Good morning. I see there's a lady with you.
Estate of Faisal Kurban, Aliyah Henry, a child of Yusuf Henry, represented by Mr. Prakash Ramada, assisted by Mr. Ted Rupnarayan, and also pairing with them Kyle Taklal Singh, Stephen Ramkisoon, Ved Trabulit Singh, but those last three are not present today, but they have asked me to apologize on their behalf, instructed by Naira Budan.
Good morning.
Thank you.
I believe, Mr. Maharaj, I believe that we do not have any application for standing from gentleman from Freedom Chambers, is it, and Mr. Ram Nahar's chambers? Is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner. All
right. Well, in the absence of having any application for standing, I won't ordinarily hear anything from anybody who has not been either applied or been granted. I think the others have, and I'm certainly content that they should address us at the appropriate time this morning. But let me just please deal with the opening session. Today is our first day of this inquiry, and it is a commission of inquiry into all of the circumstances which led to the tragic incidents which occurred on Friday the 25th of February of this year at the facilities owned by PARIA Fuel Trading Company Limited, located at 36 Sea Line Riser on berth number 6 at Pontypier, which led to the deaths of 4 employees of LMCS Limited. As I say, this is the formal opening by me, the chairman, on behalf of the commission. So welcome. Today is the 7th of September. It is the first day, and I am its chairman, Jerome Lynch at Queen's Counsel. This is the formal opening into the death of those 4 divers. And such an incident in a modern country used to dealing with the extraction of oil and gas and the maintenance of machinery necessary to effect such extraction is both surprising and tragic in the 21st century. 194 days ago, 4 men died when something happened that caused them to be sucked into a 30-inch pipe stretching across the seabed from berth 6 to berth 5. It is right that we should remember them with sorrow and compassion, not just them, but their families and friends who grieve for them. I would ask you please to join with me and observe a minute's silence as a mark of our respect for those men who have died and for those whose lives have been changed forever. Thank you. It is right that at the very outset of this inquiry that I should express on my own behalf and on behalf of all my fellow Commissioner, Mr. Gregory Wilson, who sits to my left, counsel to the Commission of Inquiry, who are sitting to my right, and the members of the inquiry team, our heartfelt sadness at the suffering and despair caused by this loss of life. We are acutely aware that these men were fathers and sons, brothers and cousins, friends and colleagues. They were breadwinners and confidants who provided joy and succor to many. This inquiry cannot bring them back, but it can and it will provide answers to the inevitable questions of how a tragedy of this kind could occur in today's society. In that, I hope that we will be able to provide some small measure of solace to all. The facts are undoubtedly tragic, and there are bound to be moments when emotion will get the better of some. Let us be understanding and caring. Similarly, there are bound to be lighter moments of levity and humour which creeps into everyone's daily routine. That does not mean that we do not take it very seriously indeed, or that we lack empathy. Nothing could be further from the truth. It is also right to observe that a disaster of this kind provided a unique challenge to the emergency services, as well as to those charged with direct responsibility for those divers. There are many aspects of the response to the tragedy that the Commission of Inquiry will wish to examine, but it is right that we should pay tribute to those people who were ready to risk their lives to attempt a rescue of these men. As you know, a fifth diver did manage to escape with the help of at least one other on the site. In response to that terrible event on the 25th of February, the President of Trinidad and Tobago, at the behest of the government and with no small contribution from members of the public, called for a commission of inquiry. Initially, the chairman of the commission was to be the very experienced retired Judge Dennis Morrison, Queen's Counsel, but he had to withdraw, creating something of a hiatus and consequent delay in getting the inquiry up and running. We've lost 4 months. I regret to say that delay has been compounded. I was appointed by the President to take over on the 6th of July of this year. Mr. Wilson is still here with me, thankfully. Let me say something, please, about the timing of this inquiry. This Commission of Inquiry, as with all such commissions, requires staff and facilities to carry out its work. I made clear at a short press conference on the 7th of July that we, would do all we could to expedite the matter whilst at the same time ensuring thoroughness. Sadly, apart from the stalwart secretary, Miss Sarah Sinanan, who sits in front of us, we've had no administrative support until Monday of this week, the 5th of September, when we were joined by our new manager, Mr. Russell Seabaran, together with some IT and technical support. The office structure at SAPA, which was determined to be the place where we would have our offices, were only completed on Friday, the 26th of August. But for the considerable efforts of Mr. Noel Garcia and his staff at Udicot, we would still have an empty shell. It's no part of my responsibility, or in any of us here, to blame anyone for this rather slow provision of the basics to carry out our work. And I know that the Honourable Minister Stuart Young, MP, has been doing all he can to push this along. Happily, as a consequence, I understand he plundered the offices of the Prime Minister in order to provide us with some chairs and desks and the basics of office furniture over the last weekend. He's apparently gone abroad with the Prime Minister, the President. I do not know if the Honourable Keith Rowley is now sitting on the floor as a result of having his offices plundered, but the fact is we've got somewhere to sit which makes up for it in some way. I await with some considerable concern for pens to write with, paper to write on, printers to print on, scanners to scan with, the internet to connect to. The upshot is that we are falling behind, and I wish to emphasise that it is not the responsibility of any of those who are sitting here on this side that we have had this slip in timing. I want to assure everyone that we will do everything we can to make up that time. To date, we have received something in the order of 40 separate statements from witnesses, over 30 separate documents, resulting in a total of some 4,500 pages of material, videos, photographs, and a plethora of correspondence. We have no one to process it. There's a limit to what one lady can do. I hope that we will be able to hear an early legal submissions, either at this particular hearing or at some future stage, which might have affected witnesses, fixing time, directions, and all of the other things that you would have expected of us. That might have been achieved today, but it can't be. And so it falls for me to tell you that whilst we stand ready to do that which we are charged to do, we cannot do so without the basic tools to carry it out. To those whose responsibility it is to equip, I ask publicly, please help us do our job. Go the extra mile to provide us with the necessary tools to carry out this inquiry without further delay. With your help, we can get to the bottom of this tragedy in timely order. To those who have complied with our request to provide evidence and documents in support in timely fashion, you have our thanks. And I regret that we have been unable to progress the matter beyond reading and collating. To those who await answers as to how and why their loved ones died, and to the general public, you have our unreserved apology that this Commission of Inquiry has been delayed yet again. It's not fair, it's not right. However, as I say, I want to ensure, and I know that I have the support of those around me, that we will make up that lost time. Anyway, enough of my complaints, because you'll understand the sense of frustration that we have felt over here. You'll appreciate that as the chairman of this inquiry, the responsibility is mine. And you can find out about me on the website. I don't want to blush by telling you about my achievements. I simply want to point out that you can find out who I am and what I've done by going on the website. But I do want to say something about the others. Mr. Gregory Wilson, who sits to my left, has spent 25 years in the subsea and construction industry at sea. His considerable experience in crisis management and safety in the oil industry, his knowledge of processes, procedures and compliance within the energy sector has already proved to be extremely valuable to all of us. He is a great asset to this Commission of Inquiry, and I'm very pleased to have him as my co-commissioner. Whilst I am a recreational diver, that is a far cry from understanding some of the specialist work that those engaged in the oil industry are required to undertake. It is his expertise that I rely upon, and that which no doubt will be provided to us in the course of evidence. We are assisted by a legal team headed by Mr. Ramesh Maharaj, who probably takes little introduction. He's senior counsel. We are fortunate to have him such an experienced practitioner, a veteran of a number of other public inquiries around the Caribbean. He was called to the bar by the Inner Temple in 1966. Makes me feel very old indeed. Since then, he's been in legal practice, served as a Member of Parliament, Minister for Legal Affairs, and as the Attorney General. He has been more importantly, I should say, that he used to be associated with my chambers in London, in Cloisters. When I was still a pupil and had a full head of hair, he was known to associate our corridors. He is I should say, he is in turn assisted by Mr. Ronnie Bissessar, forgive me, also a very experienced lawyer and a member of my inn in the United Kingdom, Lincoln's Inn, the best inn, I should say. He is head of his own chambers here in the Trinidad and Tobago, and he practices in the field of commercial law, both in litigation and advisory. He also sits as an arbitrator. His charitable work covers a wide cross-section involving not just the promotion of law and training, but also in the medical field. Mrs. Vijaya Maharaj, unrelated to Ramesh, she is a highly qualified lawyer, over 18 years' experience in civil and public law. They are an extremely good team. Anybody who needs their assistance for the course of this inquiry need but ask. Our administrative staff is headed by the Secretary to the Commission, Miss Sarah Sinanan, who seems to have choked herself drinking a glass of water a few moments ago. At least I hope that's all it was. And she has taken up her appointment to this Commission. She was senior legal counsel to the Attorney General's chambers and had advised various government departments. She has been the one sole constant ensuring that such work could be done, has been done. As I say, I'm so grateful to have such a competent team working with me and Mr. Wilson on this very serious inquiry. The Commission of Inquiry's terms of reference have been widely published and can be found on its website. But it may be useful if I just read them out for the benefit of everyone or anyone who has not seen them. They are as follows, so forgive me, it takes a moment or two to read them. To inquire, one, to inquire into the circumstances which led to the tragic incidents which occurred on Friday, February the 25th, 2022, at facilities owned by PARIA Fuel Trading Company Limited, PARIA, located at the address I've already given, and which led to the deaths of 4 employees of the company LMCS Limited. The scope of works issued by PARIA for the underwater maintenance exercise on a 30-inch pipeline in which LMCS divers were carrying out works on Friday the 25th within a hyperbaric chamber on the said number 36 sea line riser at berth number 6, and to ascertain the proposals and plans submitted by LMCS to conduct the works at the said number 36 sea line riser, and to examine generally the policies, procedures, practices, and conduct relating to PARIA and LMCS employees, organised and contracted labour for those types of maintenance exercises, and to identify the precise facts and circumstances which led up to and resulted in the loss of life, and whether that was reasonable and justifiable in the circumstances appertaining, and to examine all of the decisions and actions taken after it became clear that the 5 LMCS divers went missing, and to investigate the nature, extent, and application of any standing orders, policy considerations, legislation, or other instructions in dealing with the situation which gave rise to these incidents, and to identify whether PARIA LMCS had in place any life-saving contingency plans in the event that life-threatening incidents occurred, and if so, whether such or any plans were employed in response to those incidents. Further, whether they employed sufficient safeguards and measures to ensure the safety of their contracted employees properly and to prevent the prevention of those incidents and to rescue the 5 LMCS divers. And to determine the adequacy and mechanical integrity of equipment utilised by LMCS, and to determine the adequacy of LMCS plans utilised for the operation of the maintenance exercise, and to identify whether by act or omission any identified or unidentified person or entity directly or indirectly caused the loss of life. And to examine the role played by PARIA LMCS through their respective units, individually and collectively, in dealing with those incidents, and to examine all other material circumstances leading up to and surrounding the incidents which took place on February the 25th that led to the tragic deaths of the 4 LMCS divers and continuing up to the recovery of their bodies. 2, to make such findings, observations and recommendations arising out of its deliberations as may be deemed appropriate in relation to whether there has been any breach of duty by any persons or entities, whether there are any grounds for criminal proceedings to be initiated against any persons or entities, whether criminal proceedings should be recommended to the Director of Public Prosecutions for his consideration, and the appropriate and best practices and or policies and or procedures to be utilised by companies, such as PARIA and LMCS, for the conduct of these types of maintenance exercises and in response to these types of incidents. The policies, measures, mechanisms and systems that should be implemented to prevent the recurrence of the tragic incidents which occurred on Friday, February the 25th this year, and continuing up to the recovery of the 4 bodies, and making any other recommendations that may be deemed necessary in the circumstances in accordance with the provisions of Section 6 of the Commissions of Inquiry. Forgive me, that was quite a mouthful. The terms of reference are deliberately cast in very broad terms in order for us to have the scope to pursue whatever lines of inquiry seem likely to be fruitful to us. It is, I think, worth emphasising that the specific areas of investigation to which they refer are intended to identify the main subjects of this Commission of Inquiry. And whilst it might appear that they are fairly exhaustive, it is not necessarily intended to be so, nor constrictive. It is for us to determine and interpret what those terms of reference refer to, and we shall not be deflected from pursuing lines of inquiry which may lead to information of value. It is important to understand the nature of the task ahead. It will require hard work, especially given the short timeline, in obtaining and analysing thousands of documents and in the preparation of statements from those who may be able to give valuable evidence. It is not simply a case of Mr. Smith providing a statement and we proceed on that basis. No, it is the task of my team, where necessary, to take statements or augment them and ask appropriate questions so that we have a complete picture. With the help of my team, I intend to make sure, with Mr. Wilson, that the work proceeds as speedily as possible, as I say, without foregoing thoroughness. Let me say something briefly about legal representation. We have received some correspondence from a number of different lawyers asking for financial assistance to represent the families, in particular, of the deceased and the sole survivor. I have made it clear that I support counsel being instructed on their behalf, and this Commission of Inquiry has conveyed that much to them, and the Attorney General, and the Minister, the Honourable Stuart Young, and just about anybody else who will listen. We are governed by the Commission of Inquiry Act. It does not empower us to grant any kind of legal aid or legal assistance or to quantify any legal aid or assistance that may be given. That is the responsibility of others. It is not a question of us abrogating any responsibility. I've made it clear that as far as we're concerned, those who represent the families of the deceased and the sole survivor could and should be represented. But I do not have in our power the wherewithal to provide it. Seek it elsewhere, please. But I want to be quite clear. Those who are directly involved with the issues that concern this inquiry cannot and will not be permitted to thwart the inquiry by making their cooperation with it contingent upon receiving legal assistance. It is important to understand that the Commission of Inquiry process is not an adversarial trial. Our task is to decide our task is not to decide which of two or more competing parties has the better case, nor is it to punish anyone or to award anyone with compensation. It is simply to get to the truth with the help of all of those who have relevant evidence to supply. The process should be seen as essentially one of cooperation. Accordingly, the role of counsel to the Commission of Inquiry is not to promote any particular conclusion or result, still less to favour any particular witness or class of witnesses. Rather, it is to place before us, that is Mr. Wilson and myself, and the public at large, evidence that will enable us to make findings about what occurred and put forward recommendations for the future in the hope that such recommendations will meet with the approval of the President and her government and be implemented and thereby prevent such a tragedy from ever happening again. Counsel to the Commission of Inquiry will do that by presenting the evidence at this public hearing and others that will follow, and I'll give you the dates in due course. By questioning those witnesses whom we decide should be called to give oral evidence. We have the power, where necessary, to subpoena witnesses to give evidence, irrespective of whether they have legal counsel. And we shall not hesitate to use that power in the event that there are any recalcitrant witnesses whom we believe have valuable evidence to provide. All hearings will be conducted in public, unless the particular nature of the evidence or arguments require otherwise. And I make it clear now that we will need some considerable persuading to agree to hear any evidence in camera or privately. Moreover, notwithstanding Rule 26 as to confidentiality of the documents, that's the rule that are part of the rules of this Commission. As to confidentiality of those documents, this Commission will place every document we receive on our website before the hearings of that evidence is heard, so that everyone will have access to all of the material. I make it clear now that if any party wishes to have any document withheld from the public domain, they will need to persuade us of the need for that to happen. And it better be a substantial reason. Embarrassment will not count. It goes on the website unless we say otherwise. I'm well aware that the past months have seen a considerable amount of press attention and speculation over the weekend, in the months that have gone by. Theories have been postulated as to the lack of preparedness, who is or is not responsible, why more was not done to rescue these men. Many have expressed a great sense of anger and betrayal, outrage, that this is entirely natural and understandable. Of course it is. But this Commission of Inquiry is here to get to the truth of what actually happened. It must seek out all the relevant evidence and examine it calmly, dispassionately, and rationally. Counsel acting for the Commission of Inquiry will approach their task in that way, as I hope will all the legal representatives of the various principal participants. This will help us to discover where the truth really lies. I should also remind everyone that it is no part of our duty on this Commission of Inquiry to rule on or determine anyone's civil or criminal liability. However, we're not to be inhibited by the likelihood of liability being inferred from any findings or recommendations that we may make. We shall therefore not shrink or hesitate in making any findings or recommendations that are justified by the evidence, simply because someone else may say at a later stage that forms a basis for civil or criminal liability. The police and other agencies are, of course, conducting their own inquiries and investigations into possible criminal offences or civil liability. It's no part of our job. This room was chosen for today's formal opening and procedural hearing because it was necessary to find a space large enough to accommodate all the various people that we thought might wish to attend. And in that, I wish to express my thanks to Judith Gonzalez for making that possible. At present, I am unclear as to whether the entirety of the proceedings will be conducted here or whether it may be conducted in some other place. But certainly interviews can and will be conducted at SAPA, the offices that are just about being prepared, unless there's good reason to do otherwise. The time and place of future hearings will be posted on the Commission of Inquiry's website, but I can provide you with the dates that we have hitherto identified for the live hearings of this Commission of Inquiry, and they are the 21st to the 24th of November, 4 days inclusive, the 5th to the 8th of December, 4 days inclusive, the 12th to the 15th of December, 4 days inclusive, and then as a contingent, the 9th to the 13th of January of next year. I am hopeful that that will not be necessary, but I put it in as a contingent so that everyone keeps those dates free. Any application not to sit on any particular day must be made in writing in advance, and I would expect any problems with the witness orders that will be passed down in due course as to which witnesses we want on which particular days. We must be notified if there is a difficulty with that well in advance so that we can make appropriate adjustments. I don't want days lost unnecessarily, please. We will ordinarily sit from about 10 in the morning to about 3:30 each day, with a short break in the morning around 11:30 for a coffee or stretch your legs, and a lunch break at around 1 o'clock for an hour or so. I do expect flexibility to conclude witnesses to minimize inconvenience to them. As I've said previously and indicated previously, if necessary, we'll sit one evening to accommodate family members of the deceased who may wish to give evidence. And if that means sitting one evening, well, that's what we'll have to do. Can I say this, that I don't want any witness to have to come back the following day if it's unnecessary, and if that means sitting a little longer, that's what I intend to do. At the conclusion of each week, I may permit the press to ask a few questions of clarity, not every day, but at the end of each 4-day session that I've identified. Providing it's not abused, I see no reason why they should not seek clarification of anything that's been dealt with in the course of that week. Information about how to make contact with the Commission of Inquiry team can be obtained from those who are here. Come and speak to us afterwards, masked or otherwise. And in due course, you'll be able to, of course, access any information and contact through the Commission of Inquiry's website, www.coe2022.com. In due course, as I say, a transcript of the proceedings, today's and at each hearing, will be put on the website. Any rulings or directions that we give will be put on the website. If there's anything anyone needs to know, it is on the website. If there's something that's not there and you need to know, then there is a contact through that website. Now, unless there's a good reason not to do so in any particular case, the hearings themselves will be streamed live through the Commission of Enquiry's website and live on TTT, so that the public as a whole can follow the proceedings. And as I said, transcripts of those hearings will be posted, I think, within about 24 hours or so. The evidence given by witnesses at the hearings will, however, be only part of the material which the Commission of Enquiry will have to consider. Much of that material will be in the form of documents and statements where we have determined that it is not necessary for a witness to give live evidence. We therefore intend to ensure that all the relevant documents can properly be made public, are scanned and onto an electronic database which will allow them to be called up and displayed on a screen in this, whether it's in this building or some other place, but everyone will see the document that's being referred to. Now, although the hearings will be streamed contemporaneously, I think it important that members of the public should be able to attend. And if they wish to do so, we need to make sure that there is sufficient place for them to do so. I shall therefore take steps to ensure that there are hearings of the evidence are held in rooms large enough to accommodate at least some members of the public, as well as obviously members of the press and the media. Now, we propose to conduct the giving of evidence insofar as we're able in 4 separate parts as follows. Firstly, what was done in preparation of the work commencing. This will include industry standards, government protocols, emergency procedures, contingency plans, contracts, briefings, experience. All of those things will be dealt with as the first part of our inquiry. I anticipate we will have a site visit. At this time, both the hyperbaric chamber itself and I'm not sure where that is. No doubt someone will tell me in the course of this morning. But we would like to see, if at all possible, that hyperbaric chamber, and also to go to the berths 5 and 6. I would like to do that on day 2 of our sitting. So that, somebody remind me what date that is. That would be the 22nd of November, if that's at all possible.
The 22nd.
Thank you. Yes, the 22nd of November, if at all possible, so that we have a picture in our minds of what we're dealing with before we start to hear the actual evidence. I anticipate that on the first day, we will have Mr. Maharaj open the case on behalf of the Commission of Enquiry, and then anyone else who applies and is granted leave to say something at the outset will also make their opening statements on that day. So first day, opening statements, second day, site visit, third day, witnesses. The second part of the evidence is really what happened during the work itself. This will include what the work entailed, monitoring of the men whilst they were working, what caused the men to be sucked into the pipe, and what the conditions were and what precautions were taken and put in place to avoid any such incident. The third part of the evidence will be what happened when it was clear that there'd been a major incident. This will include how one man escaped, the actions of the emergency services, the reaction of the owners of the plant, the actions of the various contractors and the others involved, family, friends, and those at the scene. And then the last part of the testimony will be what we've characterized as any expert evidence. At this time, it is unclear whether there will be any conflicting expert testimony, but we will see what the evidence produces. It's predicated at the moment on a root cause analysis from at least one expert in the field, which we already have. Now, it is our intention that we should obtain written and oral evidence from those who can give direct accounts of what occurred before, during and after these tragic events. There will inevitably be some overlap between those particular categories. They will include employees of LCMS Limited who were contracted to carry out the work, in particular Mr. Boodram, the sole survivor, the rescue divers who attempted a rescue, in particular Ronald Ramator and Corey Crawford, who helped Mr. Boodram, PARIA Fuel Trading Company Limited, whose people on the ground were coordinating their response to the incident, and the families who attended at the site when advised that their loved ones were trapped in a pipeline. All of this evidence is likely to be of great value. We shall also have access to photographs, video footage, the various autopsy reports and other sensitive evidence. I know that giving evidence, whether in the form of a statement or in person, can be a stressful experience for anyone. So I intend to ensure so far as possible that those most closely associated with those who died are treated sensitively and will be asked when necessary to give evidence once and once only. Coordinated, to be convenient to them, as I said, if necessary, by sitting in the evening. We are mindful that for some the stress of giving evidence is likely to be magnified by the continuing effects of what can only have been a most traumatic experience. We are acutely aware of the challenge that presents itself. I intend to do everything possible in our power to ensure that the process of assessing and assisting the Commission of Inquiry does not result in further unnecessary suffering. To that end, I shall be looking for the help from all of those who seek to represent the families and others directly involved in this tragedy. I'm open to suggestions as to how that might best be achieved in the most sensitive and appropriate way. And I'll be slow to permit any cross-examination or unnecessary questions of any of these witnesses. The work of the Commission of Inquiry is urgent, and there is an obvious need to begin hearings as soon as possible. I recognise that it is necessary to act with sensitivity and compassion, and I shall take whatever steps, as I say, are appropriate in line with current practice to ensure witnesses give the best possible evidence. As I've already said, we are charged to seek answers to the very comprehensive questions posed by those terms of reference I read at some length. But it is the very nature of the process of this kind that I shall want to follow up leads and any new lines of inquiry as they arise. I wish to emphasise it is for us to interpret the terms of reference, and the Commission of Inquiry is not limited to factual questions surrounding the incident itself, as I have already said and made clear. It's my intention to look closely at best practice and procedures, legislative provision, the emergency services, the decision-making, and to what extent these were taken into account and acted upon by those responsible for the safety and welfare of workers in these sorts of environments. This will entail considering what considerations motivated them, such as timing, pollution risk, cost, chain of command, and the like. That will be an integral part of understanding how and why this incident occurred and what could or might have been done in the immediate aftermath. It is only by that we will learn the lessons for the future. This Commission of Inquiry has its rules. It has been published on our website. We place certain duties upon those who are engaged in this enterprise and upon us, in particular in relation to core participants, lawyers, having standing as recognised by the legal representatives. I said at the outset that we have had 2 applications, both of which have been granted. Anybody who wants standing must ask for it. We will consider it. Procedures for applying for standing were published on our website in mid-July, and the Trinidad and Tobago Gazette on the 15th of July, and those who wish, as I say, to be part of these proceedings need to apply. Paragraph 18 of the rules, if anybody hasn't seen them. Anyway, witnesses who are to give evidence do not need to apply for standing if they have counsel representing their interests just while they give evidence. If it's just to look after a witness, we have no difficulty with that. You do not need to apply for standing. If you want to be part of the overall proceedings, you do. As far as possible, we intend to seek voluntary cooperation in the production of documents and other evidence such as witness statements, and the Commission of Inquiry will carry out that work. I expect everyone to whom a request of that kind is made to provide all the relevant material without the need for us to exercise our statutory powers. I wish to take this opportunity to ask you all and the media present today, now, if anyone is or thinks he has information of any kind, evidence, documents, relevant matters that pertain to this inquiry, please come forward, preserve that material, and let us take a statement. Details of the way in which the Commission of Inquiry proposes to deal with documents, again, can be found within the rules for the receipt and handling of such documents. I just pause there for a moment. These rules are not written for fun. They're there for a purpose, and if we're to conduct this inquiry in any semblance of order, those rules need to be followed. I should like at this stage to say a little more about the procedure I intend to adopt in carrying out our terms of reference. It is unlikely that it will be necessary to hold more than any more procedural hearings. Cannot for my part see the need to do that. When this Commission of Inquiry resumes on the 21st of November, as I said, we will be hearing the Commission of Inquiry's counsel open the case. Mr. Maharaj will do that, and anyone else who's applied will be permitted, where so permitted, to make their opening. If there are some other applications, they can be foreshadowed with skeleton arguments and put in writing so that we can consider them in advance. And I suspect that nearly everything of that kind, provided it's compliant with the rules as set out, will be able to be dealt with administratively in writing in advance so that we do not lose time at the actual hearing of the evidence. And frankly, nobody wants to hear all of that. What the public want to hear is what the evidence is. They want to hear what the witnesses have to say. And I suspect they'll be not particularly impressed in having to hear any legal arguments when that can be dealt with by us, the lawyers, in advance. So please, if you have any application, send them in advance to Ms. Sinanan, and she will make sure that we have them for our consideration. At the beginning of the hearing at which the Commission of Inquiry intends to take evidence, counsel will be making, as I say, their opening statement. And that will set out, in outline, the nature of the evidence that it is intended to be called, when it's going to be called, and the order in which it's going to be called. All witnesses who are called to give oral evidence will be the Commission of Inquiry's witnesses. I repeat that. All witnesses who are required to give oral evidence before this Commission of Inquiry are the Commission of Inquiry's witnesses. They will therefore be called and, where necessary, examined by my legal team, Mr. Maharaj and his associates. Though the Commission of Inquiry will seek the assistance of attorneys given standing in the preparation of witness statements, we shall decide which statements are to form part of the record of documentary evidence and which witnesses are to be called to give oral evidence, in addition to any written statements that they've already provided. Our team will be closely involved in the process of obtaining statements from potential witnesses. Where appropriate, the Secretary or Counsel to the Commission of Inquiry will explain the topics which should be covered in a witness's statement. As I said earlier, it's not simply a question of Mr. Smith writing a statement and saying, there you go, and then washing his hands of it. That's not how it works. Mr. Smith will give us his statement. We've had many, as I've indicated. But if we think it's appropriate to further interview them, to augment what they say, or to add anything to a statement, we will do so. But it is not our intention to catch anyone out. We're not going to ambush anybody. Any documents we need you to refer to, we'll provide them in advance so that everyone will have as much notice as is necessary for them to be able to provide the best possible evidence to this Commission of Inquiry. Whether I will permit, or Mr. Wilson will permit, any questioning of other witnesses by other parties and to what extent they will be provided, allowed to do so, will be a matter of our discretion. We will, of course, entertain anything that is, seems to us sensible and will advance the purposes of this inquiry. I'm currently minded to invite final submissions in writing after the conclusion of all of the evidence, and to give those with standing and who have been permitted to write such submissions, to make give them an opportunity really to make a brief oral summary or précis, if you like, of what it is that they've set out in writing. Whatever they do set out in writing will be on the website. And but I will hear any argument as to whether or not that's an appropriate course once we've heard the evidence. The process of gathering evidence has begun in earnest, but there is much more to do. Taking of statements from those important witnesses will require care, but none of that can properly start until we have the right equipment. Thus, I ask you all once again, please, to exercise a degree of patience with us. We're doing everything we can to move it forwards. But in order to ensure there's no further slippage, I have insisted that these hearings should start no later than the 23rd of November for the hearing of evidence. And when I was sworn in as the Commissioner of Inquiry, as the chair to this Commission of Inquiry, I hoped to have a draft report available before Easter. That presents a challenging goal, but one with which everyone's goodwill we can still achieve. To achieve it will require much hard work, as well as the active cooperation of all of those concerned. But I hope that we can count on the continuing cooperation of the Minister and his staff to ensure that this Commission of Inquiry has all that it needs to proceed as quickly and as smoothly as possible. It is in the interests of the families whose loved ones have died that we do all that we can to give them the facts and bring such solace as the truth can provide. It is in the public interest that our findings, which may affect the safety of the people who are still and necessarily must work in this industry, that our findings are published sooner rather than later. We all share a common goal. We are all searching after truth about what happened, the tragic loss of life that caused it, and what we can do to prevent it from ever happening again. We owe it to those who died and to those whose lives have been turned upside down to work together to achieve that goal. Thank you very much indeed for coming. I look forward to seeing many of you again at subsequent hearings. That is the opening statement by me, the Chairman, on behalf of us, Mr. Wilson and myself. Mr. Maharaj, is there anything else I need to deal with this morning?
No, Chairman, unless I think one or two of the legal representatives.
Certainly.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Gilbert Peterson. On behalf of PARIA and Heritage, I want to thank you and your fellow commissioner for hearing us, and formally welcome you to the shores of Trinidad and Tobago, sir.
Thank you.
On behalf of Heritage and PARIA, you can be assured of our cooperation and assistance. We extend, of course, sympathies to the families who have lost loved ones, and we commit to assisting you in arriving at possibly what could have caused this unfortunate tragic event. So we stand ready to assist, sir. In light of that, we were advised, first of all, let me thank you for granting standing to both Heritage Petroleum and to PARIA. We have been lodging statements with the Commission, but notwithstanding our efforts, we would need to seek your leave and extension of time with respect to 3 items. Sir. We propose to submit a further 5 or 6 statements. We were hoping to do so by yesterday, but we seek your leave and extension to do so on the 30th of September 2022. We also seek, additionally, an extension of time to submit the statement of Mr. Mustaq Mohammed, the General Manager of PARIA, who unfortunately lost a close family member just about 2 or 3 days ago. And because of that, we are unable to incorporate him into the deadline of the 30th of September. So we seek your leave to extend the time for Mr. Mohammed's statement to the 14th of October. We also seek an extension of time to submit a substantial bundle of documents to the Commission, which we anticipate we will be able to do so by Monday, the 3rd of October. So that's the 3rd extension of time which we seek, sir. And we pray that you grant us those, because we are very minded to put all the material that we consider at this stage to be relevant to assist you before your commission, sir. But in your opening, Mr. Chairman, you did inquire and sought that if someone could assist you as to the location of the hyperbaric chamber. And we are able to say now that chamber was being removed after the incident on the 22nd of March by LMCS. And I want to use a neutral term. It ended up on the seabed. It is still there, I'm advised. PARIA has taken no steps to interfere with it, since they are mindful that there is an ongoing police investigation and they did not want to attempt to interfere with that chamber. So to answer your question, sir, that chamber is located on the seabed.
How deep?
We can get instructions, so my co-counsel is unable to tell me the depth, although he's a recreational diver, I think.
Oh, he can come with me then.
I don't advise it until we determine the cause of this. I'm advised it's approximately 60 feet, sir. Yes.
Forgive me for one moment, please.
Yes.
Mr. P. Peterson, I have to say we're a little troubled by the time that's being sought. As you know, we originally asked for all material to be supplied by the 16th of August. I think you were given an extension to the 1st or 2nd of September in the first instance when you applied, or someone from your office applied for an extension. And I'm simply concerned that you're talking about a substantial body of documents being supplied to us by the 3rd of October, which is the best part of 4 weeks away. First of all, I'm bound to observe if there is a bundle of documents, one assumes they exist somewhere already. These are not documents where you're dependent upon taking a statement. And I'm concerned that, you see, if we don't get them until the 3rd of October, and we've conducted, or my legal team have conducted, a number of interviews of potential witnesses, only to find that in this bundle of documents there is a document that we would wish that witness to have a look at before he concludes his statement. We'll have to get him back again. And I want to avoid that process. I wonder if I could invite you to consider whether it is not achievable to have the bundle of documents in half of that time. Simply because what we're talking about is, as I say, somebody presumably going through all the various files and papers, putting them together into a bundle and letting us have them. Even if at that stage you can't provide a witness statement necessarily dealing with each of them, but at least we had them, we can read them.
That is in fact so, Mr. Chairman. I can assure you that what is taking the time, we were going to put them in categories and seek to do indices with respect to, but as far as the existence of the documents, you're correct. But we were going to grant further assistance by putting them in a particular order, categorizing them in particular order, and putting indices with respect to the documents. But that is what is taking the time. Otherwise, the documents are available to be submitted earlier.
I mean, I'm assuming they've been available since this, or shortly after this incident. You know, we were rather hoping to have all of this by the 16th of August. That was then delayed by a further 2 weeks, and now you're asking for a further 4 weeks. And really, I'm bound to say, with your best efforts to collate them in the way you've described, surely we can have them in the next 2 weeks.
Well, sir, we'll do our best to do it within 2 weeks, or our best to where we are in 2 weeks, we will make them available.
Mr. Peterson, your reputation precedes you. I'm sure that with your persuasion, you'll be able to ensure that we can have all of these documents in 2 weeks' time.
We will be able to do that, sir.
I'm gratified to hear it. Thank you for that. So that takes a... So let's identify a date, shall we? Instead of the 3rd of October, shall we say the Monday, the 19th of September? That gives you 1 week, just a day or two less. Well, I'm happy to say the 21st of September.
I'm happy to say that too, sir.
Right. Shall we say then the 21st of September for the supply of those documents. Now, can we turn next to you say there are 5 or 6 statements yet to be taken, and you've asked for the 30th of September for those.
Yes, sir.
Right. Can I first of all approach it in this way? Rather than waiting for you to have a bundle of 5 or 6 statements and serving them all in one go on the 30th of September, could I not inveigle you to take the statements, as you will no doubt do, one at a time, and as soon as you've got it, send it to us?
Sure. Yes, sir, we'll do that.
So can we therefore have your assurance that we're not going to get 5 or 6 statements served on us on the 30th September, but as each and every one is taken between now and that date, that we will have them as soon as they're ready? You
will have them that way, sir. The 30th of September was aimed on or before. That should have been my application, not the 30th, on or before the 30th.
Well, I'm emphasizing the word before.
Yes, sir.
And I'd be grateful if you could do that, because for the same reasons that we've identified, in particular with a witness, where they may say something that we will want to put to other witnesses. What I don't want to do is to be in a situation where our legal team have been working with witnesses and taking statements only to find they have to get them back again. So please, do all you can, and I'm reassured in your response that we will have them as and when they arise.
You have that undertaking, sir.
Thank you very much. As for Mr. Mohammed, who is the general manager, I understand he's had a death in the family, and that is obviously tragic news for him and his family. Nonetheless, you are asking for 6 weeks.
That is because he is, well, he's out of the jurisdiction. He was out of the jurisdiction with that family member, and the family member passed away 2 days ago. So there are a lot of arrangements to get back into the jurisdiction, to get the body of the person back into the jurisdiction. And it's not a near location, so that...
I can understand, yeah. I wonder if we could not, at this stage, have it at the same time as the others, and in the event that it just proves impossible, you write to us and let us know why that is so.
We will do that, sir.
Would you? So can we say all witness statements to be provided by the 30th of September, not necessarily on that day?
Yes, sir.
As many as possible before that day, with a view to, I have it in mind that you may apply for that particular witness to provide his statement a couple of weeks later.
That is fine.
But you'll set out why it's been necessary.
Yes, sir.
Just a moment. Can I just ask Mr. Maharaj if he's content with that? He's the one going to be doing all the work.
Yeah, I'm much obliged. I'm okay with that.
Well, thank you very much. All right, so the order will then be, just so that we're clear, the bundle of documents that we've referred to will be supplied by the 21st of September. All witness statements to be supplied by the 30th of September, but as many as possible before that date. And I look forward to receiving them before that date. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the indulgence, sir. That's all I wish.
Not at all.
That's all I wish to say at this
All
stage.
right. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Colin Kangaloo from the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wilson, we are in a similar type position with respect to witness statements. I'm grateful to Learned Senior Mr. Peterson for cutting the track for me to run on. Because I originally had...
Don't be assured it's the same track.
I think it might be the same track, Mr. Chairman. Originally, I was going to ask for September 30th as well. I think the ministry, I have just been retained. We sent a letter yesterday to the Secretariat, and we indicated that we had just been retained. We are in the process of taking instructions. I believe we did send a bundle of documents to the Commission before. I think we have 1 or 2 that we got after that we would need to send. We haven't sent it.
I haven't seen any particular bundles from you. In fact, the first I've heard from you was the letter yesterday.
I see. Well, I will check. My understanding was, but I will check with my client. Yeah. I believe an email was sent on April 7th, I believe. I'm not sure. But I will take instructions and I will confirm.
Well, look, let me be clear. I don't want to receive a large pile of material on the 30th of September. I shall regard it as a discourtesy to this Commission of Inquiry.
And I can
if we
understand
receive
that.
large bundles of material on that day, I will give you till the 30th of September, but I expect as and when it arises to let us have it. I don't want it to all arrive on one day.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I was actually going to say, because of the track that Mr. Peterson cut, that I would be able to give you the documents before. I was actually thinking of the 16th of September, but you had indicated to Mr. Peterson the 19th. I can do on either day.
16th, please.
Yes, certainly, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And with respect to statements, if any, if I could get the 30th, I would be very grateful. Of course, I will try to do it before.
Yeah, I don't know how many witness statements you're looking to provide, but the fact is, today is the 7th of September. Tomorrow and Friday are working days. I hesitate to use the expression, but let's get on with it, shall we? I mean, start taking the statements, and as you finish taking one, provide it to us. And then if you need to then move on to the next one and provide that a few days later, I understand that. But I am anxious that it is absolutely clear to everybody who's not, I address not just you, but everybody that might be supplying information to this Commission of Inquiry, that it doesn't all arrive on the 30th of September, because that is neither fair nor reasonable to those who are working in preparing that material for us as the commissioners to then have to assimilate it. So please do all you can. And I do expect lawyers of your experience to be able to do just that. Thank you very much.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman.
Can I, though, please return to one other matter? I indicated, Mr. Peterson, I indicated that we would like to have a view on the second day that this inquiry sits of the site, that is the risers 5 and 6, and wherever the work took place, that we can view, so that we have a sense of what can be seen, if you understand what I mean. We're going to see what can be done about the hyperbaric chamber. I appreciate that it's not in your hands, but if we can't see the original one, I'm going to see if there is one available somewhere so that we can have a look at what looks like it. Thank you. Forgive me for one moment. Thank you. No, Mr. Maharaj, I can't read your handwriting at all.
I wonder, Chairman, whether you'd want to ask if anyone is unrepresented and they want to...
Thank you for that. No, and I will. Thank you so much, yes. Yes, I don't know if you're able to assist us with the viewing the locus in quo, if I can put it like that. Forgive me for using Latin, but the site where this took place.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we were quite heartened that you did say that, because we discussed it in our team that we think it would have been advisable, and it's a course that we were proposing to suggest to the Honourable Commission. We will make the arrangements. I will get on that immediately with the clients to make the second day, which is supposed to be the 22nd of November.
If you can liaise with Ms. Sinanen.
Yes, we will do that. Put all arrangements in place.
Marvellous. Thank you very much. And I'm timely reminded by Mr. Maharaj, orally, if not in writing, that I should ask if there is anybody here who is unrepresented and wanted to say anything, who is an interested party in these proceedings. Please don't be shy. Is there anyone who wishes to say anything? No? All right. Well, if anybody thinks of anything, you know who to contact and how to do it. Thank you very much. Is there anything else from anyone else?
Chairman, I do not know if that's an invitation to us, having regard to what you had indicated earlier, that those who have not applied for standing will not be heard.
Well, can I ask you this? Is it your intention to apply for standing?
Yes, it is.
And without being too hard about it, why haven't you?
Well, there is a very, very relevant reason in that we are in the final stages of filing an action in the High Court. And there is a concern that matters may be put before the court, that my friends, who may very well be the defendants in the matter, we do not know what they may make use of it, and whether in fact, yes. So there is that dichotomy of interests here.
Well, that's going to be a matter for you, not me.
And there you go.
If you're going to file for standing, please do so. We will consider it. If you're not, and are here as an observer, then so be it.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have spoken a bit, and I will indicate Mr. Michael Kurban is present. And in relation to the other family that we look after, Aliyah is only 11 years old, but we look after the interest of the estate in relation to her.
All right. Thank you very much.
May I also say this? Commissioner. We are concerned somewhat in the terms of reference, that there is literally no reference to the actions or inactivity of the Coast Guard of Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, as I said to you in my opening, I take the view that those terms of reference are a guide to the way in which we should be approaching this matter. I do not regard them as the sole basis upon which we should be investigating the matter. And I have well in mind that there are areas, just as you have identified, which will call for investigation. And indeed, we've already had some evidence from them. So fear not.
I'm deeply hurt.
There will be no stone left unturned, probably more than once.
I am deeply heartened to hear that, Commissioner. Thank you so much.
All right. Anything else that we need to deal with? No? That's very good. Thank you very much indeed for everyone who's come. I do, as I indicated at the outset, if there was a question or two from the press or media, I'm prepared to hear that. Whether I'll answer it or not will depend on what the question is. No? I see one hand going up. Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Daniel George from Sawick Media Mode. And I am looking at the fact that 194 days ago, 4 men died. Approximately 62 days ago, the Commission of Inquiry was formed. We were at SAPA, and now we are hearing that because of the death of a relative of someone whose death was only 3 to 4 days ago, less than a week ago, we are hearing excuses why information or data that should have been submitted already, we are hearing excuse why it cannot be submitted on time, and we are hearing a request for a lengthy extension. So I am concerned about what was happening within that space of time, that 194 days. And, you know, it makes me wonder, were these people totally unaware and they only found out last week that they are supposed to face the Commission of Inquiry into the deaths of the 4 divers who passed away at PARIA? Thank you very much.
Well, as I've indicated, there are many, many witness statements to be considered. I have a team at the moment of 3 lawyers on that side, 1 in front of me over here, and 1 or 2 others. We have plenty of work to be doing, and if there is a difficulty with a particular witness, I will allow them a degree of latitude. We've done that. I expect to have their statement by the 30th of September, unless there is any good reason for why it shouldn't be. That's where we are. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
One more.
Good morning, PARIA Bihari, AZP News. Chairman, I just wanted to get your sense. Do you think that there has been a deliberate attempt to put delay into this inquiry, given the fact, one, that you always have staff resources, and now some of the state organizations, they still want time to file submissions?
Right, look, I don't know why it has taken a little time to get some of the facilities that we've asked for. It is, as I made clear, not part of my responsibility, or indeed Mr. Wilson's, to apportion blame on anyone. What I do know is that the Minister has done all he can and has pushed as hard as he can to ensure that we have those facilities. We've had a number of members of the civil service trying to help us to have what we need. I am clear that this inquiry will proceed at a pace. It will not be thwarted by delays, whichever way they may come. whether it is by a witness being in some difficulty or whether it is by the lack of provision of materials, we will ensure this proceeds at a proper pace with a view to providing a draft report before Easter of next year, before then, so that you, the public, and the families will have a report in the hands of this government in short order. Nothing is going to deflect us from that happening. So rest assured, whatever obstacles are placed in our way, we will circumvent them, we'll go over them, around them, whatever. Thank you very much indeed for coming today. I will see you all in November. Thank you.